Hey everyone, and welcome back to another installment of PRL Plays Podcast. This week, as you know, we will be doing 4 episodes. This is the second episode of those 4. This episode is, of course, discussing the body division, as you probably already know, just based on the title of the episode when you clicked on it. Alex, do you have any thoughts you want to give before we get into the nitty gritty of the episode?
No, just really excited to get our hands on some in-depth on the body division. We got a lot of information out of the mind division, and I'm hoping we can get the same today.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to these interviews as well, really getting the insight on these players and their teams. That being said, we have a few announcements. Just like we did in the last episode, it's pretty much going to be the same thing. So if you've already heard them, you can skip this part of the episode. Signups for Next Split will be going live shortly after this episode is uploaded. We've had a lot of people express interest in signing up for the Next Split. So if you are interested, make sure you sign up sooner rather than later. Also, we will be releasing a calendar for next year, so you can see how each split will break down next year in terms of scheduling. Finally, our last announcement before we start breaking down the body division with those who elected to be interviewed for the day, tiebreakers. More than likely or not, there will be quite a few tiebreakers across all the divisions. In the event of a two-way tiebreaker, the games must be played out that day. In the event of a 3- or 4-way tiebreaker, however, there must be a resolution no later than Monday night at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That way we can go ahead and get everything set and squared away for playoffs, including allowing the second seed teams to pick their opponents as we move into round 1 of playoffs. With that all out of the way, let's go ahead and jump on into it. Starting off the day, we of course had our first interview with the captain of SPK Embers. We're of course talking about Ray. Ray, how are you doing today, my dude?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
We're doing well. We appreciate you coming on the podcast, giving us some insight into SPK Embers. We know, and just your team's general thoughts on the league as well. I know, Alex, you said you had some questions that you wanted to ask Ray to start things off. Go ahead and take over for me if you want to ask
Yeah,
those.
I know that this week was kind of shaky for you guys versus Grim Legion. Do you kind of want to go over what your thoughts were in the draft?
Um, I actually don't remember what. We were trying
You
to.
had you had Urgot, Sejuani, Talia, Zaya, and
Oh yeah, that game we had some
Leona.
issues with pro draft, so our draft got messed up a little bit. We were
Okay.
actually planning on picking Irelia instead of Urgot,
Okay.
but we ended up picking Urgot instead, and it was a bit messy because we wanted another melee champion with Sejuani.
Now I noticed
Uh,
you went with the Sejuani this time around. Was we haven't really seen you guys jump on the Sejuani train? Is that from the bans that got thrown around, or was that a plan?
um, I think we just wanted to try something new again, because Sejuani recently got buffed, and we wanted to see if it was good enough to play in competitive, so
Hmm.
we just wanted to try it out this game.
Now,
Um,
what kind of problems did you run into in game that made this game kind of shakier than we've usually seen from the dominance that is SBK?
well, in my lane, I overextended a lot and died to the jungle ganks, which was an issue, and I think bot lane also got, uh, harassed pretty hard, and ended up dying a decent amount. But other than that, oh, I think we had, I think we played our fights a lot. Hmm, I don't
Well,
know.
either way, you came out
I
with a
think it was pretty
victory, so
sloppy, yeah.
congratulations on that.
Yeah,
Um,
their top
come
laner wasn't really good enough to continue to punish me, so I just ended up shoving it down top and got a massive CS lead and kind of just ran around with it.
How do you
Yeah.
feel about your game this week coming in versus Chem Co?
I think our game's going to be pretty easy. I would be surprised if they managed to win. I don't think they played very well against us last time, and they looked pretty bad earlier against Delirium Gaming, so I think it's going to be an easy stall.
Now, we even have talked about ranking the divisions, and we kind of rank body as one of the easier divisions.
Hmm.
Would you agree with that, or did you think it was kind of challenging to get these undefeated?
I mean, I think it's been pretty easy. I don't really know how to judge the like difficulty of the other divisions. Like I think Recon 5 looks all right, but I think they have a lot of the same issues that we do. They're really sloppy at points. I mean, Fish Taco looks pretty clean, but they managed to drop a game as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you are up to date with a lot of the other divisions?
Yeah, I've only watched a couple here and there of the top teams, but I wouldn't say like I know everything about them. But
Are there any teams that you're kind of worried about going into playoffs?
um, probably Team Fish Taco because I think their bot lane's really strong, and our bot lane is our strong point. So I'm pretty interested to see how it would go if we faced up against them.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
Well, SBK Embers has again looked fairly dominant. You guys have had a couple rough games here and there where it's just been pretty sloppy, or just pretty confusing as to like why the game's as close as it is. But as a whole, you guys have managed to pull out that 13-0 split so far. As you stated, you guys are looking forward to the 14-0. You guys think you can take down SBK Embers, or not SBK.
Yeah.
You as SBK Embers think you can take down Kevin and Co. Rather.
Yeah.
But Kevin and Co. is currently one game behind Essentia Storm, who's looking to make playoffs. Both of them play against Insanity Gaming, and then Kevin and Co. plays against you guys. What are your thoughts on that? Who do you think is going to end up taking third in the division? Do you think it's going to go to tiebreakers? What are your thoughts?
I mean, if we beat Kevin and Co., isn't Essentia guaranteed? Unless
they lose to Insanity.
Insanity and
If Kevin and Co doesn't 2-0 and Essentia beats Insanity, Kevin and Co loses.
okay.
But they have to 2-0.
Oh well,
That's assuming that
then
Essentia Storm beats
Essentia
Insanity.
Storm beats Insanity.
Okay. I mean, I think Essentia Storm is just the better team, so don't really have any doubt that they're gonna place third.
So, speaking of Essentia Storm, we all know that you guys have almost lost your undefeated record to the Essentia Storm roster.
Hmm.
How did you guys feel about that game, and did it kind of worry you? Did it show that, because we've even talked about it, kind of showed a little bit of weakness in SBK. Does it bother you, or does it kind of show any mental issues for you guys?
It doesn't really bother me because I mean, it just shows that even when we're behind, we're able to win just through our superior team fighting. I mean, so if we play properly, it shouldn't really be an issue. That was when we picked the scaling comp, right? It was the Vladimir game.
I believe so. Yeah.
It was a long time ago. It was like week
that,
4.
That was when they went for 3 Barons without ever a pick.
Oh my god! Wait, that was the closest game we played for sure.
Yeah, that was
when our
a
jungler stole the
extremely
Baron
down
twice.
to last team fights.
Oh yeah, I mean, I wasn't worried because we had Vladimir Zaya, and it was like 40 minutes in. I knew once we stole the first Baron that they couldn't win against us.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So we touched on it briefly. SPK Embers has locked and guaranteed that first seed rather. You guys have a bye week, round 1 of playoffs, and then we have the Thanksgiving break, and then we're going to be going into quarterfinals, and it'll be on the preseason patch. What are you guys doing to prepare yourselves for that? Are you guys playing a lot on the PBE? Are you guys just theory crafting? What's your guys' approach going into directly into quarterfinals?
We haven't really prepared anything for the or the preseason. I think we're just gonna I don't know, go in and try stuff out and see how it works.
Wing it. I like it.
We don't even know what's gonna go through into the preseason from the PBE, so it's kind of hard to practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I don't really know.
You guys will have all of Thanksgiving break to kind of figure that out because you guys will be playing on the week 2 of the preseason patch, so you guys have plenty of time. You guys also, with having that first seed locked, you guys guarantee, your your pick of the litter essentially. You guys only have to worry about Zephyr Esports as like the only other team that can potentially pick before you.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? How do you feel about that whole situation? Are you guys excited to kind of have your pick of the litter, or is there any team
Yeah,
in
very
particular that you
excited.
guys want to pick? Is there any team that you guys? Yeah, I mean,
Like,
let's start
yeah.
there. Let's start there. Is there
I
any
mean,
team that you guys are really looking at? Is like this is the team we're gonna pick. This is the team we think we can beat no matter what.
probably the third seed from, or third is, I guess it'd be hard to say. Depends on who gets through. If any
Yeah,
of the
because
third
we
seeds
have to
gets
wait
through,
until obviously
yeah.
the
Yeah,
first week.
I'm just saying like if ideal
If it
world,
came down to the
yeah.
way you saw it.
I mean, we probably want to play against one of the body division teams if they made it through, because we know
Well,
that we could beat them.
well, body,
You
you're not
can't
able
play
to.
them
Yeah, you're
until
not able to
finals.
pick anybody
Oh,
from
we're
your own
not allowed
division
to?
until finals.
Oh my
So,
god.
who would it from mind, soul, and life? Who do you think you would end up picking?
I actually don't know then. Probably mine, because it seems like it has the biggest deficit
Heard.
between like the first
Okay.
team and
Now, playoffs are coming, and you guys have plenty of time to kind of figure out some new stuff. Are we gonna see some spicy stuff you guys have been working on? Do you have anything? Because you guys have seemed to draft pretty similar throughout the season. Do you think we're gonna
yeah.
see some spicy drafts coming soon, or some spicy picks we're not
We
used
have
to?
some spicy stuff prepared. We've been pretty
Uh,
conservative with our drafts since we
awesome.
started winning a bunch, so you'll just have to wait and see.
No, I don't want to know anything. I want to see it on game day, but I just want to know that you guys are working on something real nice and get the fans excited.
So, we're headed into the final week of the the regular season. Um, and you guys again, you've stated that you're fairly confident. Across, but you've also said that you're fairly caught up on all the other divisions. Here and there, obviously, like you said, you're not like 100% on every division.
Yeah.
Are there any teams throughout all the divisions though that you're looking at and you're saying like, okay, this is a team we need to avoid? Because I don't know if you watched last episode of the podcast or not, but we kind of broke down who our top four teams were, and neither me, Smacks, or Sloth King had you in our top four. We all had you on
my
just the
goodness.
outside. we
Oh my
we had
goodness.
you
You
as
were
like
close fifth.
yeah, we had you as like fifth or sixth, interchanged
Wait,
with
who's
Team
the
Fish
top four
Taco.
teams then? Because I didn't see
Uh,
that part of the podcast.
Collaborative, it was Akuma
Recon
Blades,
5.
Recon 5, Go Next
Zephyr.
Gaming, and Zephyr were the top four.
Not Team Fish Taco?
No, we had
Really?
Team Fish Taco and SBK Embers as just outside. We had you guys as fifth or sixth, depending on who you asked, was depending on where it could change. So, I mean, obviously, I'm sure you feel like we're underrating SBK Embers quite heavily.
I mean, I don't blame you guys from some of our performances. They look pretty
Well,
sloppy
obviously,
all
when
over
when
the
we also
place.
looked at it, talking about what divisions were the strongest and what were the weakest, yours came up as a huge red flag to the weakest, and obviously and this is all speculative. We can't tell how you guys are going to perform against the top team, but we we want to wait until playoffs before we can really get that top four. You know, we want to see what else these teams have to offer. So I wouldn't get too worried about it yet. We still have faith in SBK.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I just meant like what based on that knowledge that we had you guys outside of that top four, where would you rate yourselves? And are there any teams that you really want to avoid?
I mean, I kind of wanted to avoid Team Fish Taco just because I think their lane is pretty strong. I think Recon 5 looks pretty good. Their solo lanes look good. Their ADC looks good as well. Probably want to avoid Recon 5. I haven't seen any of Zephyr's games, so I'm not really sure, but they're still undefeated, and they beat Recon 5.
Which
so
is
I'm
funny
assuming
because
they're
we
better.
actually say Zephyr looks a lot like you guys. You guys are very similar teams
Oh,
for
really?
us.
Oh.
We actually say you guys like are very similar in playstyle.
I'll have to check out some of their games. I saw Go Next Gaming play a couple games, but I don't know. It looked like they have good macro and they know what to do, and then they just like randomly do something stupid and throw the game completely.
So you're not worried about Go Next Gaming?
No,
Dude,
'cause I
I'm-
think we could capitalize
I
on
don't-
the
I'm
mistake.
fairly certain every single person we've interviewed has just flamed Go Next Gaming so far.
Well, I'm just gonna say check your DMs when this comes comes through because Tron's probably gonna message you.
Oh, oh no.
But
I mean, I'm just pointing out your team's mistakes. Come
No,
on.
and it's all fun. It's all fun.
no,
At
Tron
the end
knows
of
we're
the
playing
day.
with him. No, I mean, I think that's insightful. Where would you rate yourselves, though? You know, if you guys were making a top 4 teams list, where would you put yourselves on that list?
I mean, obviously, I have to put myself or my team as the best because I think that we could win.
Confident.
So
All right.
Awesome. I like it.
yeah, I mean, if
We
I
would
don't believe
expect
that we
no
could
less of an
win,
undefeated team.
come on, yeah.
Even Team Fish Taco had themselves rated as like I think they had themselves as number 2.
Like
No,
fourth?
no, they
No,
had
they
them.
had like
I'm,
third or fourth.
if you
I
don't
thought they
rate
were
yourself
second.
as the best, then
But
you're
they
not gonna
also
win,
didn't
dude.
know a lot of the games. They haven't seen a lot of players, I
Oh,
think.
neither have
Gotcha.
I. So this is a completely blind opinion, biased
Um,
blind opinion.
so obviously, there's still a lot of teams you need to look at. But if you were to say what is finals, who's in finals, and who takes the win?
I have no idea. I mean,
That's totally okay. I mean, I've been asking a lot of the teams this in general, just getting an idea. Obviously,
I'm waiting to like review the VODs and stuff once the
yeah,
teams narrow down.
yeah,
Gotcha.
And I know
that's
which
really good.
teams we're
I
gonna
think
be
that's
playing
great
against.
preparation, and you guys have plenty of
Yeah,
time to watch these VODs.
yeah, like 3 weeks.
2
So.
weeks, yeah. All right, man. Well, we appreciate you taking the time out to do this interview. Last thing before I let you go, obviously I know a lot of the people in the SBK organization. Do you want to give them a shout out or anybody else a shout out?
Sure, I'll give a shout out to the entirety of the SBK org. Thanks for having our team and allowing us to play in this league. Thank you, Spartans, for giving us money to play in Phoenix Rising League specifically.
Well, it's been a blast watching you guys. So I hope that you guys find success in playoffs, and I hope all your preparation will show come game day.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
thanks for having me, man.
No, thank you. Up next in our interview list is, of course, the Alarion Gaming captain, or Alarion Gaming Black 80 carry Hooker. Hooker, how you doing today?
Oh, pretty good. And yourself?
Doing well, doing well.
Good to hear.
We appreciate you coming on the show, willing to be interviewed. First things first, I'm going to pass it over to Alex. I know he had some questions regarding your games last week.
You want to talk about kind of what your draft ideas were going into the Kevin and Co games?
Let's see. We saw that they had comfort picks on certain junglers, and we knew that we could play to counterpick those. And the only jungler we didn't want to play against at the time was Zach because of his engage. So we just early banned out their priority jungler, and then counterpicked what we thought they were going to play after that. Because we saw the jungler pool, and we were able to basically pick around that. And then we were able to pick a power bot lane too. They had first pick, I believe, and then we went with Kate Nautilus. Pretty strong bot lane.
Yeah.
Oh, no, absolutely. That's a very
It
strong
seemed
bot
to
lane.
really work out for you guys. You guys had a very dominant fashion playing in that game. How did you feel about going into this game? Were you guys kind of nervous? You played 2 very important games this week. Was this one kind of worrying you guys at all, or you guys felt prepared?
I mean, we had a bunch of announcements saying that we needed to win this game in order to move on. But I think after we got once we got into the game, we were all ready, set, and clear-minded, so we were able to perform pretty well.
Awesome. I
The
see you
pressure
picked
was stacked
Kale.
on before, but then after that, it kind of tapered off.
I see you guys picked the Kale. Is this something that we're going to see Taylor on more often now, or is it something that we just kind of found in the draft to be useful?
Kale's a strong pick. We always perform well on Kale in scrims, so I think that as long as they leave it up, and as long as there's nothing that destroys Kale, we might pick it. But there's also a lot of other picks that are very, very strong and don't have many counters in the top side. So we probably won't only pick Kale.
No, of course, you don't want to just focus solely on
Yeah,
one
of course.
pick. Then if it ever gets banned, it kind of throws you guys out for a loop. You guys this week, or after last week's performance, rather, you guys locked that second seed in taking down Kevin and Co. and Essentia Storm. how did you guys feel about your split performance overall? Were you guys happy with the fact you locked second seed? Are you guys disappointed that you guys got anything besides first? What's kind of the team's mental state about the way that they performed in the split?
Okay, so we're disappointed with the second SBK game that we played because uh, some of the team wasn't there for the drafting. I normally run the drafting, and I had a phone call like right when the draft started. I had a business meeting, so they were just running the draft without me and picking champions. And then when I come back, I see that we have a zillion top lane locked in.
Oh no, that's what happened.
Yes. I was not there for the zillion pick. And then I think the bans and zillion got locked in before I showed up. And then I was like, "Hey guys, what are we doing?" And,
we're just running it down, no big deal.
Yeah.
So
Don't
I
worry,
mean, that's
trust me.
that's the only game where we had like our full roster, and we pretty much just messed up in champion select. But then the other SPK game, we kind of just had, I think we had 2 subs during that game, and it was just a rough game.
So are you trying to say that Alarian Gaming Black in their 100% can take down SBK, no problem?
I 100% believe so, yes.
Oof.
Spicy take, all right.
That is a spicy take right there.
That's very confident. I like it. I like to hear it. So what? Let me get your thoughts on your division as a whole, because a lot of people, myself included, have said that body division looks like the weakest division. It looks like it just comparatively to all these other divisions like Soul and Life. What's your take on that? Have you been able to watch the other divisions? Have you been able to gauge everyone's relative power?
So I mean, I've played in PRL before, and normally people say that the division on Friday is always the strongest division. I think is that Mind, the one on Friday?
No, that's you guys. That's body.
Sorry, I'm out on Saturday. My bad. The Saturday division is normally the quote-unquote strongest. But I think it kind of depends on how they play after they play against the higher tier teams, because everyone can play against uncoordinated teams that aren't performing very well, and they're going to look good versus those teams. You can't really jump to a conclusion until you see them play against other higher end teams in the tournament bracket. I think the easiest way to tell is after looking at the first set of games in the actual playoffs. Because if you look at the games before, you can just see certain flaws within certain teams, and then pinpoint those, and then say, okay, well, are they going to make those same mistakes next time, or are they going to improve on them? And then you don't really know until that game time shows up.
No, I got you.
But
I think that's a really interesting take, actually, because a lot of people, again, myself included, have kind of looked at all these games that have been played, and the reason that I had kind of pinpointed body as one of the weaker divisions wasn't necessarily because I thought the teams weren't capable of performing at a high level. It just seemed like the consistency wasn't there for a lot of teams, on top of the whole situation that occurred with First Blood, where basically they never even played a game. So it was kind of a mixture of a lot of things that just kind of led me to believe that body division just wasn't up to snuff. But you think that's a really hard sell. You think that body division is much stronger than it looks on paper, and it's just a matter of we're not going to get a chance to see it till round 1 of playoffs.
Yeah, I think you'll see the improvement of the actual games once both teams are at a higher level, rather than one team at a lower level and then the other team at a higher level. As in, especially with one of the teams not really being there, that kind of removes part of the competition. And then lots of the teams had like constant subs during all of the games. I remember, I think 3 of our most recent games, not the last 2, but before then, 3 of our most recent games, they had 1 or 2 subs, and we were just trying to figure out who was playing on their roster when we were doing champion select.
No, I mean that definitely
So,
seems to be an issue that's been plaguing body division.
So with Essentia Storm and Kevin Co very close to each other in standings, and with this last week, how do you see these teams as like competitors for your team? Which one do you think stands out more against your team, and who do you think is gonna go make it off the playoffs in third seed?
Um, let's see. Between Essentia Storm and Kevin Co.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um, so I like Kevin Co's drafting better than Essentia Storm, but I think Essentia Storm sometimes has better coordinated gameplay within a team. So it depends on if Kevin and Co can draft. If they can outdraft Essentia Storm outright, then they can almost guarantee the win just by drafting. Lots of games are just decided by which champions are locked in, but also it would be too micro to be able to tell which team will make more mistakes and not. So I think it'll be a close game, but I think Essentia Storm will win if they have the better drafting, as in if Kevin and Co doesn't overdraft them.
So, do you think that it's going to go down to tiebreakers? Because Kevin and Co. plays against SBK Embers and Insanity Gaming, and Essentia Storm only plays against Insanity Gaming, and Kevin and Co. is that one game behind. So, I mean,
They need the two others.
yeah, Kevin and Co. essentially needs the 2-0 to even stand a chance. Do you see Kevin and Co. being able to do that, or do you think they're going to just end up falling a game short of Essentia Storm?
I mean, if SPK gets overconfident, then Kevin and Co will win. Their last game on SPK, they were extremely overconfident and almost lost to like a singular champion. I watched the game. It was just Yasuo in that game. Everyone else was not really. It wasn't fed at all. Everyone else looked like they're like 1-7 and 1-5, and then the Yasuo was like 15-3. So if you look at a coordinated team, they would say, okay, we just killed the Yasuo, we grew up in a team fight, one person expends a summoner spell, another person expends their CC on him, he's dead, and then we win the team fight just because all their gold is on that champion. But that's not what happened in that game.
Fair enough.
So moving closer to playoffs, is there anything your team is currently trying to improve on and work on at the moment, or do you guys feel like you're pretty in a good spot? And you're just kind of mentally preparing yourselves for playoffs.
I mean, we like our drafting, we like our champion picks, we like our gameplay per se, but lots of times we're lacking on communication. It's not really the words that we're lacking on; it's that everyone is trying to communicate at the same time. But when we've had a bunch of scrims, and the times when we don't lack on communication, they're extremely strong performances. So I think after we nail that down, we'll be a very, very formidable foe.
Now, is there now moving into second seed for your division? Is there a certain team in the PRL that you're looking to face coming into playoffs?
I really haven't looked at the other divisions yet. I was going to do that soon, but I just haven't.
So
had the
you're not
time.
really up to date on like how they play or where they stand?
Not particularly, but I know some of my teammates have friends from the other divisions and they really want to play against those specific teams. And then I also know that one of the competitors, I think our mid laner wants to play against one of them particularly. I'm blanking on the names currently, but
Oh, that's okay.
Oh, you're perfectly fine.
Obviously, you're focused on, and you did a great job. You focused on your division, and it got you into playoffs. So that's something to be proud of.
Yeah. You guys, I mean, you guys were able to, like I said, lock that second seed, which is definitely commendable. I know a lot of teams are still, fighting even to lock that second seed in the other divisions. So I think it's impressive that you guys have already gone ahead and locked that before we've even gotten into the final week. You guys have what's it called? So with going into playoffs as the second seed, you guys are going to be able to pick your opponent, like who from one of the third seed pools. I know you said that you don't really have too much insight on who you guys want to play against in that scenario. but looking forward into playoffs, a lot of people have SPK Embers pegged as like the sixth best team in the league. Like in some either fifth or sixth, depending on where they think they fall against Team Fish Taco. Um, what are your thoughts on that? Like, what are like you think
On
that you guys are
SBK
better
or on
than SPK
on their
Embers?
seating?
No, no,
On our seating?
yeah, you guys think you guys are better than SPK Embers. So if you guys were to say like, hey, we think we fall here in terms of top teams in the league, where would you guys put yourselves?
Well, again, I haven't really seen the other teams play, but if I was able to kind of look over those games, which I'm gonna do soon, but not currently, basically, I would probably say that the reason people view SPK lower than like the top three is because they see their victories and they see those games as quote unquote easy wins compared to the games that they're playing, which they think are struggles of a win. So they say, well, they just have an easy division, so because of that, they are going to be lower ranked. Because if they play against a higher division or a better division, then they think that they wouldn't have won all those games. So that's why they view them as sixth rather than like third or second.
Gotcha.
I personally think that we probably would fall, again, with no prior knowledge. I don't really know. I would probably just say, just for a random number, we'd say third or fourth, just to not sound overconfident, considering I don't know who we're facing.
Gotcha. Okay.
So with all the extra work you're gonna be putting in, watching the VODs and getting ready, is there anything spicy we should expect coming in? You don't really have to say, in particular, but is there you guys have something spicy for draft and for the upcoming games or playoffs?
All I have to say is that the champions we lock in are not necessarily the roles that you think.
Flex picks, I like it.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. Now, people have said that the body division is downright the easiest division in the PRL currently. What are your thoughts on that? I know you didn't watch the other divisions, but like, what are your thoughts playing against SBK and playing against some of the other teams in this division?
Well, as I said, the games that we played against SPK, I think both those games we could have won. We just had faults within our own team. As in, we lost the games ourselves rather than them winning them, it feels like, from our side. And then, I mean, can you elaborate on your question for a second?
Elaborate? It's more of just
Like, do
how
you find your
difficult-
competitive division, basically?
Did you find your division competitive, or did you kind of find it more of an easier walkthrough from what people have said about this division?
I mean, I found SBK, Essentia, and Kevin and Co. All three of those teams competitive. I don't know if I found the other games competitive, because most of the times either they weren't there fully, or it was an FF, or
Totally
insert
understood.
reason here.
Did you guys feel like you didn't have enough practice coming through all of the games, having so many forfeits?
I mean, I think it depends on the team that you talk to, because some teams will just scrim outside of tournaments every single week, like 3 to 5 days a week. And then some teams will only play tournament games and that'll be it. I think the teams that only play tournament games will most likely fall behind in this division. But if you scrim, then I think you should be fine.
Well said. Anything else for you, Jacob?
No, we just appreciate you taking the time out to do this interview, and we wish your team the best of luck, man. I mean, you pretty much answered all the questions I had for you, and yeah, like I said, I just wish you guys the best of luck going into the playoffs.
They're going to have to permaban hookers. Every game they ban Thresh, it's going to have to keep going that way if they want to win.
Heard. Well, we'll see if teams listen to that advice and they keep taking that away from you guys.
It's been banned every single game, except one. And the one where God let through, we won.
Nice. 100% win rate on the champion. That's all that matters.
Yeah. We'll see if we can keep that momentum swinging.
100% big ban.
So I guess my last little bit before we let you go then is, do you have any shout outs you want to give before we let you
I'd like to shout out. Obviously, I'd like to shout out my team, but I think if I had to shout out individual players, then I would probably shout out Sheeta and I would shout out Atlas. Both of them perform really well every single game when we play.
Agreed.
Gotcha. All right, man. Well, thank you again for
Well,
coming on the show. We really
Thank you so
appreciate
much, man. It was awesome.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
you. Take care, man.
You too. Bye.
Up next on the docket, we have Essentia Storm's team manager, Essentia Tea Time. Tea Time, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing very good. Lovely to be here.
Glad to have you, man. We always enjoy speaking with you. You've been a fan of the podcast since the beginning. How's it feel to finally be on it?
It feels pretty good. I've been looking forward to this. Yeah. I watched a lot of the podcasts. I found it pretty entertaining. Sometimes I have to tell people not to watch it because, there's some things in there where negative about a team. I was like, don't watch that. We don't need to watch this, but I watched it.
Hey, I tried to be your fanboy.
Yeah, I know. But it's been good though. I've really enjoyed watching the podcast in general.
Awesome.
I'm glad to
And I'm
hear
sure
it,
the
man.
players, me telling them not to watch it, made them think they went to go watch it even more. So
Well, I mean, we have some questions for you. You guys are on the brink of making it into playoffs. You guys, I mean, you and me have talked about it a little bit. You guys are so close. The only game you have left to win to secure that playoff spot is against Insanity. But Insanity's already taken you down this season. How are you guys feeling going into this one?
yeah, it feels a bit written like a script that we have to play Insanity again in the last week. For Friday. This is the one team that we slipped up against, and when I mean that, I mean like we seriously slipped up because. I think in a lot of the other games it was kind of 50-50 against Team Kevin, against Illyrion, against Grim Legion. They're all strong teams, and we were kind of almost the underdogs going into a lot of those games, where we ended up getting wins, and then against Insanity, the one time when we were like favorite, we ended up slipping up and making a big mistake. So it's kind of written that has to be the team that we have to beat to get over the goal line,
Well,
essentially.
we promise we won't say anything this week to you guys, so you have the
Yeah.
best chance.
Well,
But,
I mean,
I'm feeling, overall though, I'm feeling pretty softly confident about it. Softly
gotcha.
confident.
Well, I mean, your biggest competitor is Kevin and Co. Kevin and Co. has 2 games this week, one against Insanity as well, and then one against SBK Embers. Do you guys are you guys expecting them to go 2-0? So that's why you guys are so determined to get this victory over Insanity, or is it just more along the lines of you guys just kind of want to defeat your demons?
I'm to be honest, I'm not really thinking that much about Team Kevin at the moment. For us, the most important thing would just be to get the win over Insanity. Kevin has to play SPK, so they have to pull out a good performance to beat them. And then if we beat Insanity and they beat SPK and Insanity, then we'll have the tiebreaker. So in the event that happens, I'm going to feel pretty confident. I feel like if they have to beat SPK, they would have already played their best league. And we beat Kevin last week. So in that event, then we'll be pretty confident. I mean, I'm just happy that it's all within our own hands. We're not relying on anyone to win or lose their games. We just have to win the next game or the next 2 games to get through. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Well, let's talk about last week. You guys had to face Illyrion Gaming Black. That seemed like if you guys had won that game, it would almost feel like it's already over. You know what I mean? You guys would be 2 games up, and just beating Insanity would be enough to push you guys through the playoffs no matter what. How much? What? Talk to me through that game. Like, what ended up happening? Why was that? Why did that result occur the way it did?
We actually heavily VOD reviewed this game. Actually, I think we looked at it twice on 2 separate occasions. We unfortunately we made a big error. I don't know if you actually remember the game, but we made one big error in the top side of the jungle early game. We were playing around our GP, and we ended up giving 2 kills and 2 kills to the Echo and a kill to the Olaf. And at that point, the game felt pretty rough because we were playing definitely an early game comp here, in the sense that we have, the Lucian, Leona bottom lane who are going to get outscaled by the Kaiser eventually. We do have the GP scaling, but unfortunately, GP was just put so far behind by this invade that he was more or less out of the game, and it really relied on then Yasuo to somehow come back into his lane. So they did a 2v2 afterwards against the thing, which again, if that had gone our way, we would have been back in the game, but unfortunately it didn't. So we had 2 early game mistakes that kind of doomed the game. So I think it looked a lot worse than it actually was. Had those mistakes happened like in the mid to late game, we would have lost and it wouldn't have looked so bad. But the fact that they happened so early on meant that I think the game looked a lot worse than it actually was in reality.
Gotcha.
Now even before the mistakes, how did you guys feel about your draft? Did you feel like you kind of won that draft, or do you feel like it was kind of difficult to get the picks you wanted?
I think I was pretty happy with the draft actually. Going into this game, we had Gragas Yasuo, which is obviously a really, really strong combination. We have a very capable Yasuo player and a very capable Gragas player, so we're really happy about that. We had the GP into the Maokai, someone who just can't pressure the GP at all. So yeah, we were happy about that. And then bot lane, we have obviously both teams, like they have Yasuo, Kaiser, Nautilus, really, really strong versus Leona, Lucian. But I will always back our bot lane to win because they've been pretty strong this season. And that's a very feisty lane. Unfortunately, we just didn't play around that lane. We played around the top side, and that's why we made our errors.
Gotcha.
So yeah, overall, I was really happy with the draft in total.
What about your other game? How'd you feel about that draft? Versus
the other game was the
Grim Legion Havoc.
Grim
Legion, yeah. So we picked the Kaiser, the Lucian really early on, and I think that baited the other team really hard. They ended up picking the Braum to deny us, the Lucian Braum. We picked the Galio, so they thought it was Galio mid, so then they picked the kill. And then we just shifted everything around and won.
You guys were really intelligent in this draft, and I think it really won you the game because they just had no winning lanes.
Yeah, after that last pick, Callista was pretty. I think it was definitely the right decision here. Like we moved the Lucian mid for the winning matchup. We had Callista, Nautilus. Callista, Galio bot lane, again really strong, and then we have Kennen into Maokai, which is
now this is like one of the first times we're really seeing Callista. Is that something you guys have kind of been working on, or is it just something that you felt like in this draft was strong?
We've looked at Callista a little bit. Demon played Callista before she got buffed anyway, so we have it. But I don't think it's particularly strong at all. I don't think we're not going to see it that much coming out of us for sure. So.
Gotcha.
But yeah, having it there is another early game option. Because we know they run on Grim Legion, they can run Jarvan Galio, so we denied the Galio, and then Callista just being buffed was, I guess, just a lucky thing that happened here when we have the Galio, we can put it support. And we can just
now I know you guys had kind of a rough week. What are you guys doing to kind of shake this off and improve up and coming for playoffs?
We didn't actually see it as a rough week ourselves, these last 2 games, personally. We got the win over Grim Legion, which is what we needed. The Illyrian Gaming, we made mistakes, but it wasn't from my perspective, it didn't feel like it was the end of the world. We know we can do better. It kind of
felt just unexpected coming from Essentia Storm, how much we've kind of talked about this team. So, me personally, I kind of saw it as, a downfall versus Illyrian Gaming. But I understand what you mean. So I know you talked about VOD reviews. Is this something you're gonna be doing a lot more coming into playoffs?
Yeah, the amount of we're doing a lot of VOD reviews and scrims, and although it's been kind of results wise, it's been an up and down season for us. We've had 1 week where we look insane, 1 week where we look terrible. We've actually through scrims and VOD reviews, I've seen a kind of steady improvement from the season. I actually thought in week 1 that we were really, really terrible. I thought we were completely awful. And then we made some substitutions, we made some changes. We brought in a new mid laner. And then we had a kind of 2-week break period where JWeb wasn't available. So I ended up playing, which really sucked as well. And then now, and although the results were good, I still felt like the team wasn't quite performing. And then when J-Web came back, he had to kind of warm up again. So he looked kind of bad coming back in. So we ended up kind of having this kind of up down in terms of results, but in terms of the overall direction of the team, I think as a unit, as a 7-man roster, it's been really, really positive actually, like improvement wise. And
So
we've got to really abuse the next this week, and which we already have been, and the next week in preparing for playoffs. And if we keep on this trajectory, I think there's a lot of hope for the team actually.
so with Jweb, I know had some unfortunate, you know, issues where he couldn't make to these games. Is that going to be something that's going to be an issue down the road that you guys are worried about, or have you kind of fixed that stuff so we don't have to see? We could keep the synergy between this team strong.
No, J-Web's definitely going to be there for the last all the
Awesome.
last games.
Cool.
He only couldn't make it because of like one event. I think it was a wedding or something.
Understandable.
So he missed 2 games, and then the next week he played the Insanity game, and he wasn't really warmed up and hadn't played with the team in a week. So then I put myself in for the SPK game because I felt like against SPK we needed a Hail Mary, and that was kind of the Hail Mary play. And it didn't work out in the end, but I think we got a lot closer than we
Yeah. It was very
otherwise
close.
would have. Yeah.
Now, how do you guys feel about your communication? Do you guys have like good comms? I know you have sub for the team, so you've kind of gotten a feel for the comms. How do you feel about the comms for your team?
Yeah, so we kind of had this at the beginning. It was really, really bad the first week. Then we had 2 weeks where I was in and kind of bossed it a bit, like I mentioned. And then when I left again, well, when I took myself out again, so we could actually have a player who can smite things in the game without being on 200 ping. We kind of had to, because the team had gotten used to that by that point, having me in the game to boss it a little bit. So we kind of had to start from scratch regarding comms. But over the course of the last 2 weeks, it's been getting a lot better. We have a more clear defined structure, and we've had a structure from the beginning, but that structure kind of got overridden for a little bit, and then we kind of had to go back to it. So we're really, hopefully, we're developing in that part.
Now, me and Smacks did talk a few weeks ago about seeing your games versus when Jweb was in, and we saw a lot more macro in your games. Is that something you've kind of been trying to teach to Jweb to kind of push the team into a more of a leadership role?
I think, ironically, to some extent, the games that I was in, the first 2 were like 20-minute wins, so we didn't even get into that late game macro. And then the only game we did get into the late game macro with was SPK, and that was the game where we really messed up the late game macro. So I don't necessarily think the late game macro was a big strength when I was in. I think as a team, though, we have definitely like worked on it because we know what it like will take, and it hasn't been teaching it just to J-Web. He's not really the like he focuses mostly on the early game as a jungler. It's more to our side laners and our support about
okay,
like
cool.
where we place wards when we want to push lanes up. I'm a firm believer that side laners are the ones who should really be bossing the macro when they have TP, when they can push, when it's beneficial for them to the team to look for a fight if they have TP advantage, or if they don't have a TP advantage, how can they draw the split pusher to the sideline, things like that. I'm really not a fan of NA ramming. As an EU player, I find this really disgusting. League of Legends. So I do try to have us work on our abuse usage of the side lane, because I think it's something that a lot of teams don't use properly.
And we're seeing the strong teams that succeed with it just dominate. So
yeah,
you're definitely right.
It's definitely one of the big differences between some of the good and bad teams, and it is something we've been messing up. We reviewed the Insanity game as well this week, obviously going into the next Insanity game. And something we did really badly was not having us using our TP properly. We weren't committing to pushing a side lane when we have TP. There's no reason not to push the side lane and stay in the side lane when you have TP, because you can always join the fight. But we were kind of hovering back and forth between mid and bot because we were concerned about a fight happening. But if you stay bottom, commit to the push, or stay top and commit to the push, then you can TP in to the fight when it does break out.
Now, when we come into playoffs, best of fives, how do you guys feel like that's going to? Is it going to be detrimental to your team, or do you think going to benefit your team?
No, it's going to benefit us massively. I can't wait for best of fives. I hate best of ones from a draft perspective. I find it really difficult. to use this. Like, I think one of our biggest strengths has actually been like some of the drafts that we've had, and I think the ability to like see a team, see what worked for them. Like, let's say we go into a game one, we can say, right, this game we're going to do an early game, right? We're going to do an early game draft. We're going to draft an early game. We play that, and then if we find that it works, we just do it again in the second game. But if it doesn't, we have the ability to mix it up. Whereas in these games, it's kind of like
you don't
really
get that
have that
opportunity to
opportunity.
correct.
So
Yeah,
you feel like your team can adapt well in these situations?
Yeah, definitely. We
Okay.
definitely have a lot more capability in that. We don't overcomplicate things quite well, I think. So having the ability to have a clear defined, like, these are the lanes we're playing around. This is the type of comp we're doing. We're going to scale or we're going to play early game, and having that clear structure helps these players for sure. And I think it would help a lot of teams in the league.
Gotcha.
But for us specifically, in
Definitely.
a best of 5, being able to mix it up a little bit and seeing what works against some teams and what doesn't just gives us way more advantages, I think,
So
than it would hurt us.
before the podcast, we talked about whether or not you had a clear understanding about the other divisions, and you were transparent. You said you guys have just been focused on your division and getting the wins, and just focusing on yourselves and your division. But we as a podcast deemed that your division was the weakest division, without almost any contention between the three of us, meaning Smacks, myself, and Alex. What are your thoughts on that? Do you feel like that's justified? Do you feel like, no, your division's actually been fairly competitive and it's just hard to see because you guys are only playing against your division? Because the reason we deemed your division to be the weakest was just that it seemed like it was the most inconsistent division, with even SBK Embers almost dropping games multiple times to teams that we deemed much weaker than them.
I think one of the reasons our division might have looked weakest is actually mostly down to Essential Storm, more than anyone, because we, to some extent, we were kind of the ones causing that kind of up and down in the results. Like, we would lose to Team Kevin and then beat Illyrion. I think that happened in week 2, and then Illyrion ended up coming second, and Team Kevin.
So you're taking sole blame for the inconsistency.
To some extent, I think it was us. And then we also pushed SBK to that close game,
limits,
which made them look weak, and then lost to Insanity. So it was, I kind of blame us for the reason that our division looks weaker on paper. I think the reality is that you have SBK, which I don't think are above and beyond anyone else. I don't think they're that far ahead. I mean, you kind of saw that in our game, but and I don't think that they've won every game. Don't get me wrong, they've done well, but they're not doing anything that's like, oh my god, these guys are insane.
So obviously you guys go in as 3rd seed.
If they clinch it, correct.
At the end of the day, it's
Yeah.
you guys will either get 3rd seed or not make it. So assuming you get 3rd seed, is there a team you want to pick you coming into playoffs that you really want to face?
Not really. I haven't really thought about that, to be honest, up to this point.
Do you know who the second seeds are from each division? Because I can list those off for you real quick.
Yeah, Recon 5, Akuma Blades, and Famous Gaming, right?
No, it's most likely gonna be Go Next Gaming. But Life Division is a little complicated, but I would probably, if I had to put money on it, I would probably say it's gonna be Go Next Gaming is gonna be the second seed out of Life.
Well, the only one I know anything about is Go Next Gaming. I know a little bit about Recon 5. I've seen some of their players play in the past in Nightfall and other leagues. But yeah, Go Next Gaming, if they pick us, I think it'll actually be quite advantageous for us, because I've basically coached their entire roster at one point or another, and they don't know anything about our roster. I've seen
the element of surprise.
I've seen Bishan play for like 3 seasons now, in different leagues. Almost 2 years I've seen Bishan play. Seawolf was, I think he's still on the roster.
Yes.
He's Seawolf, the support, right?
Yeah.
He was on a team with me in the past, which I coached, Essential White. Kiwi also on an Essential team in the past. So I've got a good dial in on a lot of their players, and I know how they want to play. So I guess if they want to pick us, that's might be a good thing for us.
So what are your goals for playoffs? I know coming in as third seed, obviously, it doesn't guarantee you that semifinals, but do you have goals to where you want to make it?
Yeah, we want to win. That's
Well,
yeah.
I mean that's it. Some teams have different views. I just want to get an idea of what your team is looking for.
Yeah, we want to win. There's no question about that. That's
Okay.
the goal. It's always going to be the goal. I think if you ever set yourself a goal below that, you're kind of trolling. I think.
I understand where you're coming from. So
Yeah, I think the truth of the matter is we've only been together for this is our first season as a roster playing, and I've seen us improve very steadily. So that has kind of been a little bit of a disadvantage. But if we keep improving in the same direction, I mean, I know a lot of these rosters have been together for a long time. Recon 5s, obviously, they've had very similar roster for a long time. Go Next, just the other teams, for example. So going into playoffs, if we keep the steady progression that I've been seeing, maybe you guys haven't, and maybe the results don't show it, but if we keep that progression, I think anything can happen for us in playoffs, and we can definitely have a good chance.
So coming close to preseason, we're gonna get a new patch that's gonna really change the game. Are you guys prepared for that, or do you kind of go in just gonna take it one day at a time?
Yeah, this is another thing, kind of like the best of fives, which I think will benefit us. When the new patch drops, I will spend a disgusting amount of time preparing the team for it, and I actually am really excited for it because I feel like myself as a coach will have a better opportunity to a better chance of preparing my team for it than other teams and coaches would.
Awesome.
I'm confident in my own ability as a coach to prepare the team for it, basically.
And is there anything spicy we should be expecting coming from you guys?
In the preseason?
Whipping something. Well, I just mean in general.
playoffs,
Coming into
which
playoffs,
is preseason.
Which is going to technically be preseason. Is there anything spicy you guys are working on behind the scenes?
Yeah, we've got some spice ready, but I'm not going to share it because that would be
Okay.
definitely some spice.
One thing I haven't
don't
really
wanna see it
touched
yet,
on.
so that's good.
One thing I haven't touched on with a lot of the other teams we've interviewed, but I want to touch on with you because you guys are so confident about your drafts, especially moving into preseason, is the fact that, now when we go into these drafts, you're going to see what the third Drake is before you even get into the game.
Yeah.
Which I think is very intelligent of Riot to do because the third Drake does have such a major impact on the game. Now, when you guys are preparing for preseason, are you guys basically saying like, okay, we want to play around this third Drake and what elemental buff it's going to give us because it's so important?
Yeah, well, so the interesting thing about the Drakes now is that when there can only be 3 types of Drake in the game, right?
4.
No.
think
Preseason they're changing it to where
gotcha.
there's only a
so
certain amount. that can be
preseason
in the
there's only
game.
going to be
Certain
3.
amount of ones
so
that actually
if you
show
know
up.
the third Drake, that means you know that Drake is also going to be a possibility for the first Drake as well. Because the second Drake can't be the same as the third, I think. I need to double check this, but I think the second Drake can't be the same as the third, and then the first Drake is going to most likely be not the same as the second Drake. I don't know how it's going to work exactly, but basically the third Drake is likely to be the same as the first Drake, and obviously it's going to be the third Drake too. So it does affect how the drafts go, and that's been something that's been like I've been kind of trying for in League for a long time because it really, really sucks when you pick a scaling composition and then
Infernal's the
comes
first
first.
Drake. Yeah.
It's just because that Drake is only scaling. That's what it gives you. Infernal Drake gives you percentage AP and AD. That doesn't really help that much in the early game when you have no stats yet. But as you get more items, Infernal Drake becomes more and more valuable. So it sucks when you pick a scaling comp and then you get outscaled because of RNG.
Well, it's also that people are going to be fighting over a lot more picks, especially when you're kind of dwindling down to what the dragon is. You're going to see a lot of teams fighting over the same teams.
Yeah.
I
think the I mean, I hate to say it, but I think late game comps are going to be pretty much gone. I think securing the early dragons,
That's unfortunate.
getting that
for me.
early lead, getting that early. I mean, it's unfortunate for some teams. I think some teams have
I think
benefited.
we're going to see a weird bot lane meta coming soon.
I think Kale is going to be I mean, Kao's silly because she's a scaling champion that has a really strong lane phase. But champions like that, as an example, will be more and more out the window. And you've kind of seen it with our drafts in the last kind of week. We've already been preparing for preseason in the sense that we've already been running early game team comps.
Awesome.
Gotcha.
We haven't been executing on it, but that's fine. But hopefully we will. But the one game where we didn't execute on it, we knew what we messed up and we evaluated it. But yeah, we're already getting ready for what it's going to be like in preseason.
Well, I only have my final question left. So Jacob, do you have any other questions before I ask him?
No, I mean, I'll wait till you've asked your question, and then we'll give him his chance for shoutouts.
So 2 teams make it to finals. What are the 2 teams and who wins?
Essentia Storm and Essentia Storm. No.
But who wins?
I mean,
the league.
I'm gonna say us. I can't say anyone else. After saying that that's what I wanna get there. That I can't really say any other team. So
who are you facing?
It's gonna be us, and I think we'll be up against Recon 5. I think that'll be the team.
And you guys are gonna take it.
Yeah, we're gonna take it easy.
All right, man. Well, before you go, is there anybody you want to give a shout out to before we let you go?
I gotta give a shout out to my whole team. They've been outstanding. We have 6 players in the roster, 7 if you include myself. And like you saw Diamond play last week, he played mid lane as a last minute replacement, and he really popped off. And he showed like the power of having a really strong 6-man roster. You saw me get to play. J-Wave's been kind of unflinching in the fact that he hasn't been affected by the fact that I played, and that shows a lot of character. Demon was benched for the first 2 weeks. We had Diamond as the starting AD carry. Now he's come into the fold as the starting AD carry. And Diamond's gone to the bench, and it just shows the character of the players on my team, and I think they've showed a huge amount of strength in that department. Being able to not be affected by roster changes, knowing that they've got a job to do, and even on the bench, knowing that how important they are to the roster. And I think that's going to be a massive strength for us as well going forward. So shout out to those guys. They've all been doing a really good job. Gotcha.
I mean, that's good to hear. All right. Well, I mean, thank you so much, T-Time, for joining us today on the podcast.
Yeah,
it was a pleasure having you.
Congratulations to getting this far. I wish you the best of luck in your next game.
I said this with players before.
And with your team, as you being the coach, I see you guys having a really high success rate. So I do hope you're the best.
Thank you. I said before to players that it's basically an open net now. We just have to kick the ball in. So hopefully we do. We get into playoffs and then best of 5s, I think.
Yeah, just don't trip, because that's just going to be embarrassing.
Stevie Gerrard.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure having you, and good luck this week, man.
Always a pleasure.
And, of course, for our last interview of the day, we, of course, have Team Kevin & Co. represented by Waterfrog. Waterfrog, how are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Good. We appreciate you taking time out of your guys' busy schedule to be represented here on the podcast, and it's a pleasure to have you. We look forward to getting some insight from you. Start things off, you are going into this last week pretty heavy underdogs, if I do say myself, about making it into playoffs. You've got a game against Insanity, which is you're expected to win, and then you have a game against SPK Embers, who of course leads the division and is currently undefeated. And a lot of teams are saying, or a lot of people rather, are saying that you need to 2-0 this week if there's going to be any hope of you making it into playoffs, because Insanity Gaming also plays against the only team standing in your way, Essentia Storm. They're expected to win that one. You have to go 2-0 this week. How confident are you guys going into this week?
Yeah, so we're pretty confident going up against Insanity. Like, we don't think that's going to be too intense of a match. But, yeah, SPK is definitely a very strong all-around team. Our last match against them, I do remember we had a little bit of a wonky draft. We were trying out a new kind of pest-type style of support, and it ended up not going too well as far as just, like, team play goes. But, yeah, if we're gonna end up wanting to kind of play against them and win, we're going to have to really step up our game from the past.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you guys have lost two pretty important games back to back here. One against the Sentia Storm, and then one against Alarion Gaming Black. So, I mean, you guys definitely need to make sure you guys are bouncing back strong this week, and you definitely have your work cut out for you going up against SPK Embers. How are you guys feeling about that match in particular, knowing that they're undefeated and that the odds are definitely against you?
Yeah, I mean, so there's always that benefit, of going against the undefeated team of having no pressure on you. I mean, I guess there's the pressure of playoffs, of course. But, I mean, we're not, like you said. I mean, we're coming in as underdogs, right? And as far as just mental goes, that's going to help us out a ton. Not expecting to win the match, but also knowing that we can. Like, I definitely don't think our match against them a couple weeks ago, I think it was like completely just out of the question, like just no chance. I definitely think with some better drafting and with the improved mental, we definitely have a decent chance to beat them out.
Gotcha.
Now, talking about draft, I actually want to kind of go over your game against Larian Gaming Black. With your draft, what were you guys kind of looking at, or how did draft really go for you?
Yeah, so I don't think I actually have the order that we drafted up. I just have the kind of the post game here.
That's okay.
Yeah, but so the idea basically was, I believe, did we ban out Zaya that game? Do you happen to
Yes.
know? Okay, yeah. So we were kind of hoping to get one of the two pretty strong ADCs between Kaisa and Zaya, and we did end up getting that, but unfortunately we did kind of get counterpicked with the not Caitlyn, and then I think we picked the Nami afterwards, if I remember correctly, and Nami's not really a great matchup in my opinion into Nautilus Caitlyn, where she can just get blown up so easily. So already we were kind of at a disadvantage bot lane, and mid, well, like Ryze can like keep tempo with Echo. It's definitely by no means like a winning like I have pressure type lane. So we depended on top lane to kind of give us the pressure that we needed, and silly us forgot that Panth had just been really badly nerfed. So going into the top lane, a matchup that already wasn't amazing for Panth with the nerfs just definitely kind of made it very, very difficult for us to have pressure anywhere on the map. So it was definitely like a mistake by us in that regards. But the idea basically was just kind of get pressure through top, wait for me and Korean to scale.
I'm surprised you guys. I'm surprised you guys hold Kaisa and Zaya so high in the draft, especially after some of the nerfs they received. Kaisa I can kind of understand, but in my opinion, there's been a lot of other AD carries on the rise, such as the Misfortune, who is now considered by many the best pick in the meta at this current state. And then also, Ashe has been very popular lately as well. A lot more of these immobile AD carries have kind of seen upswings in terms of popularity and in terms of win rates. So what makes you guys still prioritize Zaya and Kaisa so heavily?
Yeah, so it's actually a little funny you say that. So I don't want to give up too much about like our scrims and our behind the scenes work, but we have been messing around with some other ADCs as well because you're right, we haven't seen as much success as we would like on some of our kind of prioritized picks. We think just in general, I think our ADC plays really well on Kaisa. I think his mechanics are very good on that champion, and so it's like a safe pick too. So I think that's why we prioritized it in the past when our bot lane tends to be very aggressive in lane, and so they can get ganked very easily. So just having something that they can kind of escape on with the Zaya, with the Kaisa is really nice.
Gotcha.
As for those other picks, yeah. So the MF is one thing that I don't believe our ADC actually. It's like the one ADC he claims he like just cannot play.
That's like Lucian for me.
Yeah, no, that's Draven for me. I just can't for the life of me get it. I was an ADC main for like 3 years before this year actually, so we get to talk a lot about like ADC picks and stuff like that. But definitely just like the immobility I think is always a liability, just because like I said, like Korean is an amazing player. He also is an amazing, just very aggressive in your face player. So if he plays Ashe, any misstep can just result in a really bad kind of scenario for him, which actually is the same for me as well, which is why I've started to play like Corki and Ryze and things that can escape fairly easily if need be.
Gotcha.
So, so your game against Larian Gaming didn't go great, and it actually set you guys up this week for a harder bye to playoffs.
Yeah.
Do you feel like, because you're going to have a lot of other teams if you do make it to playoffs that are going to be as competitive as Larian Gaming, do you feel like you can compete with these other teams? Do you feel like this game was kind of yours to lose? Or what were your thoughts on the game in general?
Yeah, so the game against Illyrian Gamey definitely felt like it felt very winnable for most of the game. I think we had one bad fight around Drake where we kind of got aced or something like that, and only took out a couple of them. Uh, like as far as like teams like SBK are a lot more scarier than Ascension. What is this Lyra Gaming? Who?
Valerian Gaming Block.
Yeah, I mean we're not truly the only team in the league we're really like scared of playing right now is SBK, and I say scared just in comparison to the others. Like we think we can beat any other team in the league pretty easily.
Gotcha. No, I mean, I think that's important to have that kind of level of confidence. And, you guys, again, are essentially fighting for the opportunity to have a tiebreaker with essentially a Storm. What are...
How do you feel about the other teams in your division?
Yeah.
Let's just talk about kind of like Ascension Storm's like right around the corner from you guys. Grim Legion obviously is tied with you guys. How do you feel about your other teams that you face? Is it competitive league for you guys, or do you feel like it's just kind of too many mistakes you had early on that kind of led to being roped into this situation?
Are we really tied with Grim Legion?
Yep.
Yes.
Yikes. Okay.
You guys have 2 games. They only have 1, but you guys are officially tied in the standings for now.
Okay. So just in general, like so it's a little weird. So we kind of like play 2 kind of scrim, or 2 matches a week. We play the Phoenix Rising League on Fridays, and then we play some matches on Saturdays as well. So since we're all busy university students, we don't really have too much time to play like solo queue in between those sometimes. So I definitely think our Friday matches for Phoenix Rising can definitely be much. They don't show our true capabilities as a team. And yeah, I definitely think I guess you're gonna have to take my word for it. On Saturdays we look amazing, but I definitely think a lot of our losses have been more us not playing to our best, rather than just being strictly worse.
Understood. So a lot of people have hailed, ourselves included, have hailed Body as the weakest of all the divisions. Simply due to the fact that there has been consistency issues across the board, even from SPK Embers and Alarion Gaming Black, and it's been very much deemed that way because it seems like even despite these inconsistencies, teams aren't really able to take games off these top teams. How do you and the rest of Team Kevin and Co. feel about the fact that you guys are hailed as the weakest division and you guys are struggling in the weakest division?
Yeah, I definitely think it's a little risky to just compare inconsistency to weakness. I mean, there are teams out there, I think G2 is a decent example, where they'll have games where they look like the best team in the world, and then they'll have games like their second game at Worlds against FPX, which I don't want to spoil, but it was a yikes. And you watch that, and you go, am I watching 5 solo queue players just play whatever champion? You get my gist essentially, but
sure.
So yeah, don't lose focus on you guys yet. Wait till playoffs, because a lot of it was speculation. We haven't seen these teams go out of their divisions and fight other teams in the PRL. So obviously we had to speculate, but we just kind of wanted your thoughts on how you thought your division was, if it was competitive and you thought that was a lot of strong teams shoved in there, or do you feel like it was kind of on the weaker side of divisions?
So I don't think I'm ever going to say, we're on the weaker side of divisions.
No, of course.
I think that it's a very tight race. I think a lot of the teams, of course, again, kind of minus SPK and even SPK showing the inconsistencies, we're all very, very close in skill level, and anyone can take it. And maybe that's why you seem to see these lack of consistent skill.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we're the weakest division by far.
Okay.
Hard.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys, let's play the what if game. If you guys manage to sneak into playoffs, you guys take down SBK Embers. upset them from running the 14-0 division, and then you guys take the tiebreaker game against the Sentia. What are your goals for playoffs? Are you guys saying, we're coming in, if we make it to playoffs, we think we can win it all, or are you guys setting like realistic goals, or are you guys just planning on taking it one series at a time?
Ouch, realistic goals. I mean, of course we're going in with the mentality that we're going to win the whole thing. I mean, any other mentality is just detrimental to ourselves. There's no point. I mean, what's the point in playing if we're just going in to, win consolation? I don't know.
No, I got you.
I don't know if that's the team's mentality, but I know that's mine going in.
Understood. Are there any teams that you guys if you guys manage to make it into playoffs, that you guys are really hoping to play against? Obviously, you have to rely on them kind of picking you, but are there any teams that if you guys had the choice that you guys would pick to play against?
I don't have any in particular. I hope we get to play a really good team so we can get the early upset and get our name out there.
I like the confidence. It's great. So coming into playoffs, if you do end up coming out on top this week, what are your kind of plans to improve, or do you have thoughts on how to kind of better yourselves for playoffs and prepare?
Yeah, so I would say one of the strengths of our team is actually improvement. We actually have a graduated student who actually basically spends hours and hours a week just watching our VOD reviewing with us, writing notes. It's like we've improved just immensely. The five of us had not played together at all since a month or two ago, and we all got together, and the improvement we've made in that time is just amazing. Right now, I think we're definitely identifying. I don't want to say too much about the behind the scenes.
Oh, of course.
Give too many weaknesses to exploit, but we've definitely identified some weaknesses over the past week, especially, and I think you'll see a different team coming into this weekend.
Now I know you guys are team top secret, so you don't have to say, but are we expecting, I know you said a little bit on the 80 carry side, are we expecting some crazy drafts coming for the other players, or is that kind of, you guys kind of keep the same how you have been?
Look,
I
don't want to hype you up too much, and I don't want to ruin your dreams, but
no.
You'll definitely at least see something crazy this week that you don't expect.
Okay, I'm down with that. I'll be watching. So.
All right. Have you guys seen my Malphite mid yet? By the way.
No, I don't think I have.
Oh
Wait, maybe God. Did we?
I don't remember.
If it would have been the first couple weeks, I don't think I'm gonna play it.
No, I did not see a Malphite mid.
Oh, okay. Oh God, I was spamming that.
You trying to be the Doinby of PRL?
still working on the Nautilus. You might see that, but
okay.
It's getting there. Yeah.
I know we saw the Kiana, and we haven't really seen much after. Is that something you've kind of been working with on your team, or is it kind of something you guys don't really care about anymore?
So yeah, that's I don't know. We've definitely transitioned more into focusing more on kind of late game kind of team fighting comps with the Ryze Kai'Sa, which is weird because we did find success with the Kiana, with the Zac, with those kind of early game kind of brawlers. So
it's weird to hear Zac
I would say
in
definitely,
early
yeah.
game.
Okay, so
wait,
I
guess Zac is more of an early game ganker.
I've heard a lot. I've seen a lot of players playing Zac. I've seen a lot of teams prioritizing it. Is there some inside knowledge that we don't have? Because we, on the analyst desk, we're like, what's going on?
Well, I've said consistently, I think it's a mixture of comfortability for a lot of these players, and also just, I think a lot of these players think that it provides so much gank potential from all these weird angles that a lot of players that can't really expect. But yeah, I'm curious to hear some inside information on why this Zac pick has seemed so prevalent in PRL.
Any of your thoughts on why we see Zac so much out of these teams?
Yeah. So I'll start off kind of with our team specifically. I mean, our jungler RL Pons is a Zac one trick, or has been a Zac one trick for a couple seasons.
Oh really? Okay.
The guy has millions of mastery points on that champion. He just it is just his pick. So when it's left open, it's definitely always in our eye as something we can take. But overall, I just kind of think you touched on it with like the Zac just has so much gank potential with, especially with mid lane. Like if I'm into a Zac, I just have to play so incredibly scared because one misstep and that's it. I'm dead. There's nothing I can do about it.
And I guess I guess we kind of question it because we haven't seen it to an successful. It hasn't been successful in the PRL, and I guess that's what kind of worries us. We see these teams prioritize it, but not find success. So I don't know, I guess it's something we're gonna have to see if it turns out to be the pick of the year, but we'll be waiting.
The Echo at Worlds, the Echo jungle at Worlds, kind of.
Yeah.
Everyone's hyping
you
it
know
up
what?
and then-
That should have received the .A award. Was just Echo pick because it was so overhyped and then it never happened. That was disappointing.
Well, it happened. It just didn't.
Yeah, Cloud9 picked it in a match that didn't matter, so it doesn't really matter.
Did they even win that game? I don't know.
They did. They did.
Oh, okay, good.
It was against Hong Kong Attitude.
Yeah.
So yeah, it mattered, but it
Good
didn't
old
matter,
06
but
Ellen.
it was a win.
It always matters.
Yeah.
But so what are we touched on who you want to face. You just want to you said you want to play against a strong team that for an upset and get your guys' names out there if you guys make it into playoffs. What about teams you guys want to avoid? Are there any teams in the league that you're just like, I don't want to face this team? They look too scary, or their play style is just so contradictory to ours. Are there any teams like that for you guys?
No. Sorry for the brief answer, but
No, that's okay.
no, I mean, yeah,
We are
we'll play
seeing
anyone.
Famous.
I mean, at the end of the day, right, with the mentality of going in, you want to win it all. It doesn't really matter who you play first, right?
Yeah, you
Gotcha.
guys seem very confident. So is this a whole team confidence or just kind of on your side?
Oh, I'd say it's definitely mostly me.
At least you're honest.
I
It just seems like shaking in your boots. You're like,
Yeah.
victory.
Yeah, no, yeah. I'm definitely trying to be the hype man for the team a little bit, just boost the mentalities. But we're a pretty confident team in general. I'm probably overinflating it a bit. I'm sure.
Understood. So, I will say I'm a huge fan of risky picks that can either win you the game or lose you the game. I've been known for champions like AP Kog'Maw,
Oh yes.
like just blind picking Xayah in the mid lane,
Please do
saying
not.
counter
Do not
me.
get him started, man.
Even the attack speed Nico, I've claimed that I think that's going to be coming back shortly here in a little bit in Season 10. Alex touched on it briefly. He asked if you guys had any surprise picks, but you even mentioned it that you've played this like Malphite mid and stuff like that. Do you have any picks that you are really just keeping low key until you find the proper time to bring it out?
Well, I think it'd be low key if he says it.
I mean, I'll tell you the ones I don't think will ever come out. Yeah, I mean the Malphite mid, I don't think I'll play that anymore. Down to the 80, thinks the 80% AP nerf. But also Ezreal mid is a
that's
favorite of
huge.
mine. After watching Faker play Ezreal a couple times, I was inspired. I really like it in Galio actually. Some people don't like the matchup, but you get to like basically just keep him off minion waves, so you can keep him from roaming pretty easily. And which is what Galio wants to do. It definitely suffers in damage late game, so I'm probably not gonna pull it out. But yeah, I've got a lot of whack picks I like to mess around with, and my team is not always a fan of.
I know that feeling.
Anymore.
So do you guys feel confident with preseason coming soon? That the changes are going to either help you guys, or you guys are kind of worried about what's happening with preseason?
Oh gosh, that's a question. I'm a little worried.
It is indeed a question.
That is my job.
I'm a little worried for preseason due to the TFT update. I think it looks really fun, so a lot of my teammates will no longer play League.
I told you, Alex, you need to play some TFT, dog.
So what we're getting here is, if you play TFT, you're gonna lose the whole thing. But
Yeah.
kind of okay. So like, are you guys doing any early preparations? Are you guys reading up on anything, or are you guys going in kind of blind and then gonna see how you can react to the changes?
Yeah, I mean, there's elements of both, right? You can plan all you want, but at the end of the day, there's going to be some weird, probably Lucian build that just ends up one-shotting everyone like there is every preseason, and all of a sudden you got to adapt. But
Yes,
Yeah,
of
we're
course.
definitely staying updated. We're keeping with the times. You know, we've all been like watching, Worlds for good 5v5 types of picks and comps and stuff. But I mean, at the end of the day, preseason just makes everything explode.
Now,
I think
now,
that's
do you
probably the
guys
most
think?
interesting thing about PRL this season is the fact that literally our split ends and preseason begins. That was the risk that everyone took when they signed up this split, and with the changes that are uh, on their way for preseason, such as like the third dragon changes
Yeah.
and stuff like that. A lot of these teams are now expressing concern about some of the changes that they're going to have to now deal with going into the first round of playoffs. And if you guys do make playoffs, you guys will be playing right away on the preseason. I mean, is that daunting to you guys, or are you guys very much just, what, like, we've made it this far, if we can, we'll be able to adapt to these preseason changes?
I mean, at the end of the day, everyone's got to adapt, right?
Mhm.
So I don't think it puts us like at a huge disadvantage or anything. I mean, obviously it's a worry, right? It's kind of a dice roll to see, what meta it favors. Maybe it'll bring our AD carries. He's a big Lucian Vayne player. Maybe it'll bring them back into meta. Maybe it will completely make mid lane mages suck or something, and all of a sudden I have to play Yasuo every game, and who knows?
I don't
It's
think your
impossible
team
to
would be
tell.
happy about that based on what you said.
No, yeah, they would not be. Yeah.
So moving into playoffs is obviously going to be set, and we're gonna have multiple games. So, how do you feel about draft and all that coming into a best of 5 scenario?
Can you repeat the question, sorry?
How do you guys feel about coming into a best of 5 scenario? Coming into
Oh
playoffs.
yeah.
Like, how do you feel like you guys are going to be prepared? Do you like the change? Do you think it benefits your team?
Yeah, I really do. I mentioned we play on Saturdays as well. Those are those are best 2 out of 3s, and we're currently undefeated. As far as that goes, we adapt very, very well. I think that's just this past week we lost the first game and then did a reverse sweep essentially. Just in general, we are very good at identifying what we did wrong throughout matches, so that we're able to adapt for the next games.
Awesome.
Well, speaking of adapting, one thing that I think a lot of people have overlooked rather is going into playoffs. You have to play on your opponent's day and time. A lot of
Yeah.
teams have said that that is an extremely daunting task because you get so used to playing at this one set time throughout the season, and then if you don't perform well enough to keep that spot moving forward, you have to adapt your day and time. So, what are your thoughts on that? Like, how are you feeling about the prospect of having to change your guys' day and time moving into the playoffs, as well as everything else we've already discussed?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's like I don't think it's gonna mess with us, like mentality wise, like 24 hours earlier, anything like that. I think if anything, it's just more of a scheduling concern. Like on the off chance, someone's just not available like the day before for whatever reason, like then we're just at an inherent disadvantage because we're already subbing in. And I think we haven't won a game with or we won one of our games with subs so far. I think off our main 5 roster, we lost the rest. Yeah. So yeah, it's a concern, but not like for the reasons I think you listed as much.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, I guess I only have. I know Alex has one last question, and then I'll let you give your shout outs, and we'll let you go. We don't want to take too much of your time, Alex.
Yeah.
All right.
Take it away.
So, I've asked most teams, and I'm going to ask you. And
Okay.
it's okay if you don't have a clear understanding of the other divisions, but I kind of want to know what you think for finals. 2 teams, who's going to win it?
So you want the teams that'll be in
2
the
teams
finals?
that'll be in finals, and who's going to win?
Oh, that's an easy question. Oh my gosh. That's I mean that's gonna have to be the rematch between us and SPK, of course.
Ooh.
I mean,
Okay.
is there any other combination really? I mean, just
I guess
realistically?
not. I guess not.
I
And
mean,
we're not
we
even
gotta
gonna talk
get
about the
the
other possibilities. We're just gonna think about that one.
Yeah, I mean, we gotta get the weakest lead. We gotta get the weakest division to the finals.
So you're
and
saying this week we get to watch finals before it happens.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Sounds
All
like
right.
G2 claiming they played the finals before they played the finals.
And then getting a 3.
Well, I am
Oh.
super excited to see that game,
Uh,
and I hope the best to you guys. Hopefully, you can take a game off of SBK and make it to playoffs, or even make it to that tiebreaker. So, with that, I guess you can give out some shoutouts if you like.
Yeah, if anyone you want to shout out, feel free.
Oh, I didn't plan for this. My cat is at home, a couple hundred miles away. I give him a shout out.
Hello,
That's about it, I guess.
kitty. Not even
All
gonna
right,
shout
no-
out his
no-
own
no
team.
shout-outs to his
Jeez,
team.
like.
Shout out.
Oh wait, shout out my
Waterfrog is
team-
the only person in
team-
favor of the game.
Waterfrog is gonna
Kevin.
clone himself to play all 5
I'm gonna be in
positions this
all
week.
5 lanes and get ganked 5 times.
Wait, honestly, me in 5 lanes, we'd be undefeated. Guaranteed.
Okay, coming off of that, it was great having you, and
Yeah.
again, we're really excited to watch your games, and we wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, good luck
Yeah,
this
all
weekend, man. We look forward to either seeing you guys in playoffs or seeing you guys next split, trying to make the run back and get into playoffs that time around. Whichever one
course,
occurs,
yeah.
we look forward to seeing you guys grow as a team.
Yeah, all right.
All right, man.
Thank you guys so much.
Oh, thank you. Well, that about wraps it up for the body division. We got a lot of insight. Alex, what were your thoughts on everything regarding it?
I think it was crazy the amount of insight we're getting from these teams, and I'm glad we decided to do this for the end of the split.
Yeah, absolutely. All these teams that are playoff hopefuls have a lot of insight, not just in their own teams, but on everyone that they have are contending with, rather. And some of them have actually given us pretty good insight on what their thoughts are in terms of the other divisions as well, and what we can look forward to moving forward into playoffs. But yeah, that's going to do it for us for the body division episode. Yeah, good luck to all the teams who are still in the running for playoffs, and we'll see you on the Rift. Have a good one.